What's up, guys? It's Jensen and welcome to another video. So obviously it's NFL Divisional Playoff weekend and there are 4 amazing matchups scheduled for the weekend. But to me, the closest one is definitely going to be when Kirk Cousins and the underdog Minnesota Vikings head to San Francisco to play Jimmy Garoppolo and the 49ers. Man, I've been going back and forth on this game. This is going to be a razor tight game and this might be the best game of the postseason so far. This is going to be a really good game because Minnesota has shown me that they can show up when the lights are brightest. Specifically Kirk Cousins. Man, that was impressive by Cousins. He didn't play great most of the game, but he played better than Drew Brees. And in overtime, when they needed a big play, he was able to deliver the pass to Adam Thielen. That's what we always complain about with Kirk Cousins. Not showing up on Monday Night Football. Not showing up in prime time, failing to come up big against tough competition. But I've always been a big Kirk Cousins guy. I always felt like the Monday Night Football stats been unfair because a lot of times he's played good competition like Green Bay or Seattle this year. And when he was in Washington, he really didn't have the supporting cast that made it reasonable to expect Washington to win some of those games. So that Monday Night Football stats kind of overrated. Did he really show up a couple of times? Did he fail to show up? Yeah. But he showed up at the Superdome. That's what I know about. And I really believe in Kirk Cousins in this postseason. And that might seem like a foolish thing to do, but he played like an MVP in most of the regular season. And I said right then, the Minnesota Vikings would be Super Bowl sleepers if Kirk Cousins shows up. And so far he's shown up. And with the crew he's got around him on offense, Minnesota is going to be tough to stop, even for a great 49ers defense. We're looking at Dalvin Cook. I mean, this guy, 2 touchdowns, 97 yards. He was cooking last week, even against the Saints defense that's pretty good against the run. He's the engine to the entire offense. And while I think the Tannehill, Derrick Henry play action is probably the best in the NFL, the Cousins Cook play action isn't far behind. Dalvin Cook really is the engine of the team. And we can tell, Dalvin Cook wasn't really there last year for the Vikings. He was injured. So we didn't really get to see Kirk Cousins with an elite running back like Dalvin Cook. I think that was the main reason why the Vikings struggled. Now we get to see with an elite guy like Dalvin Cook in the backfield, Cousins has played like an MVP. And Cook has been the key. The offensive line has been great. Run blocking, they've been really amazing this year. It's more of a zone blocking offensive line, which is pretty interesting. They have a lot of versatile guys. I really like that offensive line. Sometimes it is good to have a power offensive line, but for the Vikings, they really do benefit from having versatile offensive linemen. So that's very important. And if Cousins has a big game, and I know that San Francisco defensive line is pretty elite with Nick Bosa, Eric Armstead, D. Ford coming back, DeForest Buckner. Those guys can pass rush. I know that. But Cousins has got to get the ball out quick. That's going to be the key. He's got a guy like Adam Thielen who runs a lot of short routes, but he can also run vertically. You got Stefon Diggs. He's a big playmaker. That's the reason I think Diggs and Thielen are the best duo in the NFL. I mean, they just do it all. Diggs does it more vertically while Thielen is more the inside guy, but they get the job done. I'm really a fan of those guys. The best part is that they just shut up and ball. You know, guys like Odell Beckham Jr. or Jarvis Landry, you hear all the talking, and sometimes that's not very good. But when you see Stefon Diggs and Adam Thielen, they just come to work and they get ready to play and they ball out on Sundays and Monday nights and Thursday nights. That's what you want to see. But I think the X factor for Minnesota is probably going to be Kyle Rudolph. He made the big touchdown catch in overtime against the Saints to give Minnesota the win. This guy's a huge red zone target at 6'6". He's one of the best red zone targets in the league. Cousins, he's got to find Rudolph in the red zone because I really feel like when they get into the red zone, Rudolph is going to be the guy. They got to get the ball to Rudolph because he's a matchup nightmare in the red zone. He's pretty physical too. So for Minnesota, that's going to be the key. Obviously, with Diggs going to be on Richard Sherman probably because I think Stefon Diggs is a more explosive player. I think Adam Thielen, he's going to really get a lot of targets in this game from Cousins because opposite of Richard Sherman, their cornerbacks aren't that great. So Thielen should have a good game too. I expect a great game from Kirk Cousins. He's going to show up. I believe in this guy. Kirk Cousins is going to play big. Now let's look at the San Francisco offense. I know that Jimmy Garoppolo has played well this year, but I really am disappointed by what I've seen from Jimmy Garoppolo this year. That sounds crazy to say because the 49ers went 13-3. I understand all that. I get it. But I really expected a borderline elite play from Jimmy Garoppolo this year. What we've gotten has been more or less pedestrian play. I know he's shown up big against the New Orleans Saints and in the Seattle Seahawks game. I know we'll all react to the final drive where Jacob Hollister was 6 inches from perhaps giving Seattle the NFC West title. But the bottom line is that in the drive before that, Jimmy Garoppolo truly was great. But I'm not really seeing greatness from Jimmy Garoppolo. He seems more to me like a game manager. I think that before the year, I thought maybe he'd be closer to like the Matt Ryan, Matthew Stafford, that type of range in terms of quarterback rankings. But now that I've watched him for the entire year, he reminds me more of a Derek Carr type of guy. I don't know what we're going to see from Garoppolo. Even with that great offensive line, and that running game is pretty special too. With Matt Breida, Tevin Coleman, Raheem Mostert. They have 3 versatile guys, 3 explosive guys. That is an interesting backfield right there, and that can definitely do nothing but help Garoppolo. But I have questions about Garoppolo. So definitely his wide receivers are going to have to do him a big task getting open against Xavier Rhodes in the corners. Definitely the key to the game is going to be Deebo Samuel. We know this guy has big playability. He has lights out speed. He's going to have to make big plays. Don't underestimate his ability coming out of the backfield too. This guy, he's built kind of like a running back, as people have mentioned before. This guy, he can handle carries from the backfield. Watch out for that. Shanahan gets very creative, and I think that for 2 weeks of preparing his team, I think Shanahan's going to have some interesting play calls planned for this game. And also blocking tight ends in the NFL, as well as one of the tougher guys to tackle. He truly is a game breaker, and that's what really makes this game so hard to pick. When you look at these teams, they're virtually equal in my opinion. Especially when you look at that Minnesota defense. Everson Griffin, Danielle Hunter, those guys showed up. They made Drew Brees' life miserable. So that offensive line is going to have to do a good job of protecting Garoppolo, because I think that Drew Brees, even at his advanced age, is still a better quarterback than Garoppolo. So obviously the San Francisco offensive line, one of the best in the league, but they're going to have to show up against Brees, because we all knew that New Orleans offensive line, we all knew that offensive line was elite as well, and yet they couldn't stop this defensive line. So, I mean, Jimmy Garoppolo, he's got to watch out. He's going to have to have a good game. I'm just not sure if we're going to get it. It all really comes down to who's going to have the ball in the final possession, I think. This is going to be a really, really tight game. I mean, I can't even tell which way this is going to go. I've been going back and forth. But at the end of the day, I think I trust Kirk Cousins a little more than Jimmy Garoppolo. So I'm going to take a leap of faith. I'm picking the Minnesota Vikings, 24-21. They were my Super Bowl sleeper pick throughout the season. Well, toward the end of the season, if you haven't seen my video. I really thought that if Kirk Cousins played well, Minnesota should be the favorites out of the NFC. And he did play pretty well against the Saints. So I'm going to go with Cousins and the Vikings here. Certainly, they're going to have to hope for the right matchup in the NFC Championship. But I really feel like Cousins could lift this team to the Super Bowl. And that's certainly not something we were expecting to say at the beginning of the season. But he's going to need his full crew. Diggs, Thielen, Cooks, they're going to have to show up, because that San Francisco defense really is legit. As for San Francisco, this is a young team. I think that's what it's going to come down to. Minnesota is a pretty seasoned team. Even though Kirk Cousins wasn't there a couple years ago for that NFC Championship run, a lot of that roster was. So that's what it comes down to for me. San Francisco, it might be a little too much too early, especially with Kyle Shanahan. He's kind of a young coach. Jimmy Garoppolo, even though he's 27 years old, he doesn't have that many starting reps in the NFL. I think San Francisco comes back and they're going to be a legitimate team next year. I just don't think this year. I think it's too early. But if they can get past this game, maybe a Super Bowl is in their future. Anyways, thanks for watching this video, guys. Please like and subscribe. I'll be providing more NFL and NBA hot takes as the season goes on, and have a good day.